So we chose medium, even though we know we have done this already. So I don't know if this is different from the functionality as
could you, so when you state an activity, just give us a highlight of what it entails, and then maybe if you have done it or it's something that you want to do, how, just give us context.
We already separated this thing from. I don't know if we still have to go back to before you
separate what? Separate from what?
You know
now what he's trying to say is because as you state this one clearly, I'm sure that was different from the strategic hierarchy. You could have explained better what this one means. From what it means, this one has been implemented, but something came out of the functionality assessment. Are there other issues that came out of that? So if you are saying what okay, we want to implement outcome or gaps that were identified in functionality assessments.
We have not seen the final document.
So Mubarak has not shared that.
I haven't seen that.
So that's why we look at the document, sorry to cut you short, it says there's a functionality assessment for 2026, 27 yearly till 2029, which have two functionalities that will be done. So we are assuming that the functionality should be probably a yearly thing. So, but of course, it will help us if we see the outcome of the previous one we do. Then it can also guide us to do what I want.
Okay, I'll ask Mubarak straight away. Actually, I want to take this issue. I don't know why he didn't share that. But it's very important to know that the assessment is actually to identify your strength and weakness. Yeah, for clarity, where you have strength, where you have gap, that is where you need to address. So my thinking is, I will maybe before we close, because I'm sure that is ready. Maybe Mubarak will continue time to share with you. So, is to implement some of the gaps that are identified in the functional assessment, which I am sure the strategic plan has actually taken care of some part of it, right? So we can actually leave the, though we say medium, that's fine. If it's so high, let's just go ahead with that. Let's hear others. But as Emmanuel mentioned, if you want to mention something, just explain blah blah blah, because as this one is stated, it's actually not clear what the first point there is clear what you actually want to achieve with that. Now it could be okay, facilitate implementation of functional outcome of functionality assessment, something like that. But let's deep down out. I will call the bar now after the meeting and we know where we are with the reports. Go ahead, Alex.
Okay. The second one is to develop an identity.
Touch your screen.
Development of identified policies and guidelines. I think during the preparation of this document, we identified some documents that Kadbeam will be needing to be able to stand as a functional mechanism. And one of such documents is safeguarding documents, the TORO, the finance documents, child protection policy, gender policy, consent of interest policy, conflict of interest policy, procurement policy, and lots more. So we felt it's very high, something that we should give very high priority to, something that we need very urgently. Then the third one is development of monitoring templates.
Is monitoring is it monitoring of activities or what?
That's
Oh, you are reading from the.
No, I'm just trying to know, to get the strategic objective of that activity.
Okay. Okay, you are taking. Can you just read maybe so we still come back to you, possibly some ideas behind this to see whether group actually identify this part of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's development of identify policies and guidelines.
No, they talk about
monitoring templates. So the fourth one, okay, we chose loop.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay, the fourth one is develop reporting template. Okay, develop monitoring templates, and the other one is reporting templates. And the reason we chose high is because one of the things we identified during the development of this document was that most of our activities are not reported. People just attend activity, they come back without submitting reports to the secretariat. And we agreed that it's important we have a template that anybody can work with. So we want to make it a priority. Then the track activity documentation of the mechanism. I think in line with that reporting, if we are able to report, if we are able to submit a report for all our activity, it will be easier to track all what the mechanism is doing. So we also chose high. The regular documentation of all reports and knowledge step down. So we're still under the same strategic objective. We also said high. We also chose high. Then develop a resource mobilization strategy. Like we identified from the beginning. When we don't have resources, even though not just financial resources, when you cannot identify your resources to work will be very difficult. So we felt, developing a resource mobilization strategy is another high priority for us. Then development of proposal to assess resources for Kadbeam. So we said medium. Even though we chose medium because we know that currently some of those strategic documents that will be required for us to be able to access funding are not available yet. So it's not too much of our priority. We said medium. Then development of financial management tools. We also chose high. Because by the time we begin to assess funds, if we have any little fund, even if those going to be contributed by individuals, we need to have the tools to be able to manage those funds. The utilization of financial management tools developed, which is also high. When those tools are ready, we need to put them to use. Financial reporting. Almost the same thing with the management of financial tools. And we also said high. Opening of sub accounts with volunteer member and main accounts later.
There's a sub account already.
Yes, we actually said low here because we are looking at as a mechanism. One of the questions we asked ourselves was that is it possible for us to use another organization's document to open an account for Kadbeam? So what we are thinking is that even if we don't have an account, we can decide to enter an agreement with any of our member organizations.
There's an account already. That's what it is.
Okay. So I'm just trying to explain our thinking why we select low. So since we already have one sub account, just say that. So the next one is periodic mapping of existing members. I think calling for this meeting also gave us an idea that we need to really do a mapping of our membership. Because it was difficult for some of us, some of the TWG leads, to even identify who is a member of the TWG, that you even belong to, that you are even a lead. So it's very important for us, and we said it's high. Then periodic review of membership representation. Okay. Periodic review of membership representation, we said high. I think one of this issue also came up very strong during the development of this document. For those of us that were there, we know how that thing led to so many other things that led to so many things. So we said it's very important for us. Then biannual partnership assessments of membership. And biannual membership partnership assessments and continuous onboarding of state and non-state actors into the technical working group. of Kadbeam. We chose high. Because it will also be very important for us to have the non-state actors to be part of our technical working group, especially for evidence. When we are looking for certain information, you need to have them seated with you. You don't need to start running from one MTA to the other to get information. We have them in our sub-committees. Accessing information in their MTAs will be very, very easy for us. Then the next one is rotational physical general meeting of Kadbeam. And the reason for this, the reason why we choose medium was because we find out that even though it's also a priority, but for us it's not something that is too high. One of the challenges we have had in the past was holding meeting across the river. And most people from the other side find it very difficult to go for meetings. They will tell you the distance. So we now said, okay, I think that's why this thing came on the strategic document. So that whenever we are going to have a meeting, we can decide to choose randomly from any of our member organizations that has an office that can buy, that can host our meetings. Then deploy reporting templates for monthly updates and reports for member organizations. We also choose medium. I think the secretary will have a lot of explanation to do some of those things. We only answer based on our understanding of the. So, then we say conduct survey of membership of members and relevant MDs collaborating with Kadbeam.
This is big. Why conduct survey? What?
So that's why I said.
So that's why it's counted.
That's why we just copy what we have on the document and paste it. So we just choose medium. Then conduct workshop on budget cycle and tracking. Then this one too, we decided not to adjust it, but that was fine. We picked it from the document. We were even finding it difficult to even understand the expression of request there. But what we got from there is, to conduct a budget tracking workshop for members and some members from our partner NGs. So we chose high. Then design workshop module for training. We said medium. Conduct workshop on developing assessment and analytical tools. We said medium. Conduct workshop on.
How many activities do you identify? Is it all
of them? That was
not. No. We said 10 now.
So not finish the work that.
No. Did I mention 10?
I think I
you get 10.
I said 10.
You get 10.
I did.
You don't reach 10.
So we go
So we just.
This is a 5-year strategy because we cannot do everything. We are saying priority, top priority, bring them out.
So we are thinking at the end of the day, we will not select.
No, I
those
don't
that are
know.
high.
There's no point.
So maybe we just stop here for another group too.
Let's see.
Because we want to present
Yeah. So I will have the let's hear from other group. Yeah.
Okay.
Group
2.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. At least we don't chop, so now we have strength. I mean, and so at least when they don't talk. So actually, we started by talking about funding. We know that everything that you want to do without fund, you cannot do it. And right now, we know that Kadbeam doesn't really have much fund for our activities. So that's why we place them as at least as the first priority. We also looked at development of policy and guidelines. Alex has already talked about it, so let me not just let me leave it there, since he has already explained. Without guideline or policy, everything we are doing, because any organization that will go to assess fund, they will ask us for the policy and guidelines. So at least without that, we are nowhere. So we need for it to be developed. Then we talked about capacity building of Kadbeam members. Now without capacity, because every day you have new members that are coming on board, and all of us are coming from different organizations. So at the end of the day, all of us that are members of Kadbeam, our capacities needs to be built so that we can be able to be at par and be on the same page with everyone that is on that is in Kadbeam. The one that we look at as high for us is for us to advocate for increased enrollment, retention, and completion rate in both primary and secondary schools, across the state. This is important. No matter whatever we do, without an increase in enrollment or even retention and completion rate in both primary and secondary school, everything we're talking about doesn't make sense. But we are not the ones that are that are implementing. Ours is to advocate. But that is the main reason why we are in Kadbeam, to ensure that pupils and students are enrolled in schools. So that's the thing. Then we also talked about advocating for training and motivation of teachers. Now, right now, a lot of teachers are actually being retired in Kaduna State. So at the end of the day, even the few that we have, how well trained are they? I went to a particular school, GSS, thank you, in Igasa. Majority of the students that were there didn't speak English. And they didn't have enough teachers. They told me, the students themselves, they didn't have enough teachers. So if they don't have teachers, like there was no teacher in maths, there was no teacher in IRS, there was no teacher in geography, and what's the other one? And home economics. Now, if you don't have teachers in all these subjects, how do you want the students to be able to pass? So training is important. And then motivation for them. We also talked about advocating for teachers and student safety. I'm still going to use the GSS Tankiloa, for example. The place from the main road, Igasa Lokoja Road, to that school, if you're trekking, it will take you about 1 hour.
You're right.
The school also is very, very open. There are no houses close to it at all. Yes, there is no fence. So if anything happens there, so there's insurgency will happen, kidnapping will happen, and now you're posting students, teachers there. At the end of the day, how do you expect such teachers to stay? How much are they being paid for them to be able to live wherever they are? Because they could post somebody, let's say, from maybe Sabo to that place. Now, if the teachers are not there, you complain that teachers are not there, but what is the motivation? Even they only had 6 caddies to guard the whole school, as big as the school is. The toilets are not there, there is no water. I had to, the guy that went with me, I had to beg him to stay to wait for me to finish what I was doing, for him to take me out. Yeah, it's that bad, yes. I went there myself, so it's not as if I was told. The students, when they want to ease themselves, they either go to the bush around there, or they stay home. The Kadbeam, as I said, were only 6, and one of the Kadbeam members told me that for him to trek from wherever he is to that place, it takes him about 35 minutes. And they don't have this, nothing for them to work with. So even if anybody comes, they'll just run away. And the school, you see different people passing. No fence, no nothing.
So let's continue.
We also talked about that we are advocating for teachers, their posting, for them to be, their posting should be close to the school, but based on proximity. Because like I said, if somebody who lives inside Igasa will have to trek 1 hour to get to the school. Now somebody that's coming from Sabo, or is coming from Bonigora, or Tunwada, or Malali, to get, how much is person going to spend? I spent more than, going there, I spent more than 4,000 naira to go there and to come out. How much is the salary of a teacher? For the teacher to be able to pay that kind of amount from wherever the person is coming from to come to that place. That means at the end of the day, some teacher will look for,
Have we finished the presentation?
I thought he said we'll explain. If we are, isn't that what you asked for?
Yes. Let's do summarize it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, just briefly tell me what that's about.
Okay, so we feel that if the teachers are employed based on proximity, actually it will be better. And then at the end of the day, the students will be able to have more teachers in school. Then we also talked about computer training. The world is evolving. Without the computer training in school, at the end of the day, when these students come out from school, how do you want them to cope in our world of work today? Sorry. Then we talked about enhanced participation of members. For us, I will put it at medium. The reason why we put it here is because, just go down there. Don't go down there. The reason why we put it like this is because sometimes we don't even know that there's anything going on in Kadbeam. So if the members are not carried along, then there's a problem. So for you to be able to ensure member participation, then you have to make sure that everybody is carried along. So that's why I put it there. That's why we put it there. Well, Alex have already talked about this one, development of assessment tracking tools to generate. Okay, no, this one is actually on the part of the community. So we are thinking that since most of these schools that we're talking about belong to communities, these communities should be carried along so we have to develop an assessment tracking tools to generate community feedback on education outcome in their area, and then this can be presented, at the Kaduna State Education Summit, so that it's not just for us to be talking or advocating. At least when they know that this thing is coming from the community and the problem that the community have, it makes it more imperative and more genuine, and of course it will make the government to understand that these people are the ones that are bringing this thing and that it's affecting them. The community itself will also take ownership of whatever is going on in their community. Then we now talked about to ensure transparency, accountability, and cash backing of education funds by tracking budget implementation. Yes, we know that the budget, 26% of the total of Kaduna State budget was given to education. But what is the cash backing? That's the thing. Most times, this thing is on paper that is 26%, but the cash backing sometimes is nothing to write home about. So that was why we picked it. Then We also talked about advocating for out of school and then the second chance education. We have a lot of out of school, students around. Like I was talking to my guy here, I told you that in Marabarido, there's one Angwa's house. There are so many kids that are in that community that were actually chased out of their community. So they are not attending school, they are not doing anything, they are there. And we know that that can cause problems for us. We have a lot of the elementaries around, The time they are supposed to be in Makanta, and most times they are, around the streets. And of course, any child that is trained by the street will have a problem. And then we have a lot of girls that dropped out of school because of early marriage, poverty, and all that. So if Kadbeam is able to advocate for this, it will also go a long way. So that at the end of the day, we'll now have, after-school children in school, excuse me, and then we also provide second chance for those who were not able to, get it the first time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry, we'll come back to it. Why did you highlight this in red? I'm not seeing what.
Okay, so we'll change it.
Yeah, change it. Let's say the last one before we make general comment. Let's see what you have. Can you move that red? I hope it is my compliant, my system. This one is not system compliant. So what? It's not here, right? No, it's not. Oh, 1.5 minutes. This was an annual. Let me send it to you. Who's the you? I share with you. What do you hold on.
Just apart from GG, do you have any other words? Apart from that, check it as I did.
Okay, I have this one that is like let's see.
Let me see this one.
The system is high profile.
This one is receiver.
I send it to me 2 months ago. So why he's trying to connect to the whatever? I observed group 2 because the group 3 I think you can somehow overwhelm. I can see long list, right? So for group 2, where we say, is it something funny? The first one is something funny, right? Yes. What to do? Can you read that out?
Provision of funding.
Provision of funding. So provision of funding, how? We want to know specifically. Provision of funding, is it that you want to write proposal to get more funding, or you want to get philanthropy that will support you, advocate for philanthropy? These are specific things you want to mention. You want you to mention. Not really funding. Just here. Right? Then there's a place where you mention, is it the second one? What's the second? Development of policy. Development of policy of guideline. So we need to specify what policy do you want to develop. Is it financial management operation policy or financial management policy? We need to specify those ones that we think are critical, that we want to have them now. Right? So those are the ones that specifically we need to mention. the policy needs to highlight which one you want to develop. Right? Which one again?
The capacity building for Kadbeam members.
Capacity building of what? Is it on advocacy or report writing or proposal writing? You need to specific on the capacity building, what specific area you want to build a capacity on.
Can we have the thing?
Yeah?
Can we talk about it?
The talk
The thing that you
about
just mentioned.
yes.
Capacity building on,
I said no. I'm just trying to say left for you as a team because I don't know whether we'll come back to that specifically. Can you should agree?
Yes.
Which area do you want capacity building on advocacy, on report writing, on proposal writing, on whatever different kind of area that you think, or infographics, right? Because these are the things that most often, if you want to do something, advocate to government official or anybody that want to respond. Graphic actually speaks whatever. Which actually I'm interested in the part where you mentioned. Is it poor distribution of teachers or something? Ratio. So no, they no, not that. Is it that? Okay, you mentioned
is it proximity?
proximity, exactly.
Access.
Now, clearly, even us as a program, we identify that if you go to schools in Suba, 80% of teachers in Suba local government are from Kaduna. Some don't go; they go once, twice in a week, and that's all. So now, how do you support that? How do you advocate that? You cannot say because Ahmed merely say teachers in Suba they come for no. That is not evidence based. You need to conduct an assessment to ensure that is that actually happening. That will form a basis for you to advocate for some of these things. That okay, those in authority should to like take part of it. Can you post teachers close to whatever, or if you are making new recruitment, ensure that wherever somebody comes from, you post that community. Right? So that actually will help in training. So, but that cannot actually come. You cannot just say teachers are, in Suba are all from here. No. No. I'm just trying to say. Now, if you want to advocate for that, you cannot just say I'm going to see the commissioner today or Supreme Chairman. Teachers are not evenly distributed, right? Or they are not in their place of origin or their place of location. You can only do that once you've done your own finding, exam or so. Maybe you kind of update that will show you, yes, this is actually on ground. Whoever that wants to go and fact check you, will know that this is actually correct. Is this system correct now? Is it up there? Let's hear from them before.
Alright, so good afternoon, everyone. So for my group, this is what we're able to identify as 10 activities that we're asked to identify.
Yes, ma'am.
Our partners are
You are
raising their
presenting
hand.
of the people.
Yes.
It is all I just wanted to respond to.
Okay.
Posting of teachers to the issue of these teachers.
Yes.
You are referring to.
Yes.
Before we
Yes.
continue.
Yes.
Okay, I'm fortunate to be part of the improvement team in 2015.
Okay.
2018 when the improvement took place.
Yeah.
Except if you want to go by half bread is better than no. That used to be the formal system where people are employed to have, let me say, to have something to do, just to get salary. Because during the recruitment exercise, you see Tunuba, you see Soba, you see Kubo, you see Makapi, you see Ikara. You have to drop the pass mark down to be able to accommodate, to be able to get people from those axes. That still was not enough. We, like in Kubo, we only recruited 125 from that axis. And looking at the situation, already the teachers that were there were already incompetent. Let me use the competency test words that was used. They all failed the competency test, and they were all disengaged. And then when they now said, come and apply, people who applied were so small. People who applied from those axes were so small due to the fact that maybe some of them were not working with their certificates. Maybe some of them do not even have the qualification to apply. So that was the scenario. And as at that time, in the other axis, like Kaduna, we had over 3,000 that were competent, that wrote the exams and they passed. And in the axis they are reciting, there's no vacancy. Because that space can only accommodate for maybe 300 people because they already have enough staff strength in those areas. So the competency team, the recruitment team were left with no any other option but to say, okay, let's pose these people, since they have passed the exams, let's pose them to this axis. Those who will want to stay will stay. Those who will not want to stay will not stay, but that gap still exists in those areas. I hope you are getting what I'm saying. So I'm saying it for the benefit of the Kadbeam team, so that our idea of saying people in that location should be recruited in that location and should be posted there. So that was the scenario. So these people that were overcompetent here we don't have space to employ them there because the local government are not paying. So we now have to shift them to those axes. I think the issue around that place is that maybe, and you know, there were a lot of grievances, a lot of agitation from the citizens or the, so what do they call them, of those areas, saying you disengage our people, and then now you are bringing external people. So those things were just agitations because they were given the same right to apply. I told you earlier that we dropped. In like Kaura, the Zongo, Chukwu, Kaduna, their pass mark was over 80%. But in those areas, we had less than even 30%.
So, Madam, so I agree. Whatever you are saying here, I quite agree with whatever you say 100%. But we are trying to see, you change strategy or whatever. What we are saying, for instance, now, if we are talking of not that those who are working in this local government, you don't go there. That may be the reason of maybe cost implication, right? Because they have their family base there. That may be the reason for maybe some will just say, "Car is far." Even if you are staying here, you want to go to Suba, you are doing that. If you have the money, you cannot get to Suba earlier than 9 a.m. Right? So what we are saying is government engagement can be strategy can change. Yes, I know it will be capital intensive. Government can begin to say, okay, yes, let's build more accommodation. Someone will say maybe we don't have fitting accommodation there, right? Or you introduce kind of rural posting allowance that will encourage some people. That's my thinking anyway, because the system is actually suffering.
That has been the strategy. All the years that introduced the setting for rural allowance education strategy.
Yes, but it has not been implemented. But it shouldn't be.
Let's look at this as
There is solution for the problem.
We keep running around deciding, because there was a model that was given before that the community should identify their sons and daughters, which will take a longer time. We intend to enroll into NC so that the state will support those people. Will any male teacher that is a staff there, his wife will be made to pass. If she has the capacity, she will be trained to also go to school so that she will be absorbed there, so that we avoid the situation of greener pasture in the city. So, but even with that, we didn't achieve that, because as soon as they get, they shift.
They leave the
As soon as they achieve it, they shift. They go to the city.
So I think it will take us a whole day before this. But what I'm trying to say is, it's very complex.
That's actually what I want to do.
That was.
He's saying that we're trying to look for common ground.
Yeah.
So there's a question I want to make.
Yeah.
We have a lot of teachers that have retired. Majority of them are not old yet. So for some of these localities where we have such people, can we use them? Especially for, let's say, the second
Employed.
Well, you can, I don't know what it is.
Policy for
No. Yes, I understand, madam. But you see, if you can call it volunteer, but volunteer they get something.
Yes.
Because we're talking about the second class education, we're talking about out of school children. Now, the school curriculum and all that, at the end of the day, we don't even have enough teachers in the school. And there are so many people that are leaving, and these people were trained. You know, they have all the qualifications, they have all everything, and they are not in their localities. So why can't we use them as substitutes? You call them volunteers, but at least you give them stipends.
So I think let's keep this at parking lot. Yeah, like this is complicated, right? So maybe if we have time or one other meeting. Oh my God! Sorry, I felt he came in when we were having a group meeting. When we reconvened, I actually didn't come back to my mind to introduce him. We have in our midst Dr. James. By the way, he's the output lead. What I mean output lead is the output lead for Abuja. This is a colleague anyway. So he wants to chip in certain things. Let me just give him the floor.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good to be here again. I think the last time I was there was 2023. Apologies for not showing up.
2022.
22?
Yes.
So I still showed up 2023. Kadbeam,
Okay.
yes, we started Kadbeam strategic now at the dissemination of the dissemination of social demographic survey. How many of us were part of that dissemination? Social demographic survey on non-state schools.
That was 2002, sir.
No, 2023. I still remember.
Okay.
2022 was when we came here for introduction. 2023 was when we
that's what we
this
saw
year. So it's good to be here. On the issue of recruitment, I've been listening. It's a very complex thing. But I want to ask, is there anybody from government side here?
See, she's not talking.
What is government doing about it?
Yes.
Because government needs to be proactive. It's your school. Yes, it's also community school. Then I also want to raise a question. The 3,000 teachers that were sent packing.
25,000.
Huh?
25,000.
25,000. Did you actually do a thorough diagnosis to note that all of them, we should do away with all of them, or there are some that will still need some remedial support? I know it's a policy thing, it's a governor decision. Yeah, but did we, because some of you have actually been going to the school setting to be able to determine the capacity of this teacher. Is it outright dismissal or retrenchment, or I don't know the language to use now, that we needed at that point in time? Or we could say that yes, some of these teachers are struggling. If we give them further training, they can still be retained. Or we've trained them severally for almost 10 years. They are not changing, they are not trainable. Let's do away with them. Because getting teachers is very difficult. Let me give you an instance. I've been part of this system for a very long time. During the SP years, we did similar assessments. 2008, 2009. Kaduna, Kano, Jigawa, Kwara, Enugu, Lagos. Out of the teachers, the numbers of teachers we did the test, I think it was only 1,200 that passed in Kaduna. Similarly, in fact, Kwara own was worst. But in Kwara, they didn't send their teachers back in. What they did was to say, okay, this is a terrible situation, but what can we do? Let's invest. So we were there supporting the teachers. And before we left, we could see some improvement. We were also here for almost 8 years before every came on board. So something is wrong somewhere. Because sometimes, let me tell you, you can't use an assessment, I'm an educationist. You can't use a generic assessment to rate your teachers. You won't get the best out of it. Somebody who is not trained, maybe somebody who has background in social, maybe Arabic and social studies, and you are now saying, okay, you want to test their capacity, you are bringing tests in mathematics, English, and all the rest. You are not being fair to them. You are not being fair to them. I interacted with some of the consultants that did the test, and when I see the test, I just shook my head and said, was it what you used? So, maybe, sometimes when executive governors are speaking, some of us who are directors, sometimes we don't even have the mouth to say something or maybe give advice. So I think we need to, maybe in the future, begin to see how we can handle it better. Because from my own perspective, I'm in the wrong. Not all the teachers, not all of them are not trainable. But it was a paradigm shift, it was a very radical decision. And so sometimes those of us who are in the classroom situation can use our evidence to modify some of those decisions. But it has happened. What will government do? Rural basic allowance. How will Kadbeam push for that to say, government, you've promised this, so percentage. If genuinely we want teachers to be in those schools, we should make effort to implement this policy. I was STA Kwara. When I was in Kwara, the likes of Kayaman and Baroti, this is my friend's place. In fact, like I told him, they should give me a cow for the work we did in Kayaman, because it was like a neglected place. Nobody was going there. And so we did a lot of fantastic things to make that place educationally strong. And when we went back to track the implementation of what we did, we were surprised. So we could begin to bring in community engagement to address some of these challenges, and that's what Kadbeam stands for. SBNCs are there, PTA are there. My friend here is going to talk about PPP forum. We could engage them. In Kayaman and Barote, we discovered that community members were recruiting teachers in some areas where they don't have senior secondary school. They build those schools. We're paying those teachers. More than 30 teachers were being paid 30,000 then. They were paying. And what we did as SPIN then was just to create what we call rural teacher housing. In fact, in some instances, they were the best building around. Even the I won't say Emir Palace. Some of these Guam, Seriki, or where the traditional rural houses were not as beautiful as the structure we put there, just to attract teachers. A lot are being planned by UBEC. There's a paradigm shift. How many of us know that it is now 12 years compulsory basic education? Huh? You were the people pushing for it. You've been advocating for years. It's like senior secondary education has been abandoned. Nobody is taking care of them. Government, this is your UBEC money. Can't you use it to take care of senior secondary? Now, it's been extended. Commissioners are getting confused again to say, is it that I don't have so much power again? Is it that I don't have so much money? Kadbeam, you have a lot of work to do on that to ensure that it is being, it's a very complex policy. So, but what we are saying is that around all this policy implementation, I'm happy the government is here. Kadbeam, let's show interest. For the fact that government is pushing policy, let's also put our mouth there. Let's track whatever they are doing. Let's contribute to it. Because most of these policies' intent does not mean that it's perfect. But we can sometimes challenge it in a more professional way. We can make our contribution to say we are looking at another angle to it. Is Sakefa here? Why? How come Sakefa is not here?
Sakefa is another network now.
No, but we should have their members, yes. It may be under different NGO, but I know definitely some of them should be here. So Sakefa, because I know it's a civil society government partnership. So we expect you. I will be surprised if they are not here. I will be surprised if they are not. So government. Hello, ma. Maybe I should call you the executive governor here, or the honorable commissioner. Yeah, are you from the Ministry of Super?
Yes, from the Super.
From the Super.
They will have ministry for you. Like powerful woman.
Okay, I met you the other time, man.
Yes.
Yes, they're very powerful. The way everybody was saluting at that day. So we have a very strong. So, ma, especially Super, you have a lot to do. This one that they are putting.
You understand?
You have.
Sir, I'm not.
You are representing the government.
Sorry, I just want to say that what you said is okay, it's in line. There are a lot of lapses during all of those competency era, but there was little or nothing anybody can do during that time. So I think that is the area that we need Kadbeam
to come
in.
Yeah.
Not the issue of saying you are putting the place that the person is, because you will not get the person. Because those locations do not have the competent people that they will do there. So I think Kadbeam needs to look into that area of that competency, but you don't have to call it that they should say they are not competent. Let's give those teachers who were not competent during that time in those locations. Let's give them another opportunity to see whether they can pass through a process and then see whether they can be reinstated. Because even the ones that were reinstated, they were not reinstated, they were recruited. Meaning their experience behind, they have kept it, and then they are going. Because there's supposed to be a civil service pattern of matter of service.
Yes.
But that was not done because the people that were at the aim of the affair to deliberate on that did not have the confidence or the mind to stand and say this is the situation. At that time, they were constrained to say these things. So I think Kadbeam needs to intervene for these teachers. By the time, because the teachers are already living in those areas, some of them didn't live, and some of them are not indigenous of that area. But they are still there because they have already established there. So those ones that can be used, that still have years that they can be utilized in the service, let them see how they can talk to the government, the present government, whether they can reconsider some of those things, some of those teachers, so that the issue of those gaps can be reduced to the BRS minimum. We are hoping to the BRS minimum. Otherwise, the volunteer, because even the SUBEC is now encouraging the local government to recruit the volunteers, so that the local government will pay, not necessarily entering their payroll, the payroll system, but they will be paying them to a systematic way. So, and with this shift of the secondary school and the senior secondary school coming, I think we're just thinking that probably it's because of this, what do they call it, this local government autonomy, that every state is trying to remove the burden of the salary that they are paying to secondary school and JSS and sent to the local government because they have autonomy. So, and we have to also be very careful. They went for the meeting, but I don't think it's conclusive. So, but we are still waiting to see, and all the partners, all the people that are intervening.
That one is sealed.
Let it not be sealed, let it not be sealed, because it will mean doom for education.
Like
even in the primary education that we are paying, that the local government is paying the primary school teachers. Is that not what is bringing about all of this? So are we now saying we are going to still send those ones to add to the ones that are already dying, so that all of them will die?
I think it's more of maybe when they work out the modalities, it's more of support. Teacher training, maybe structure. I'm not sure it will get to teachers' salary being paid.
It's a step.
Yes, I'm not sure. It's just like, okay, let this intervention, some of this, UBEC intervention fund, let it also extend.
Somebody in my state asked the question here, if you were there, somebody from my state who was at that meeting asked this question, there was no response to it.
It's still
So that's why we are so afraid of this.
No, don't worry. They will come up with a policy framework on how to go about it. Thank you, so that I don't disrupt your presentation. Thank you so much. Please, go ahead.
All right, so good afternoon once again. So this is our presentation for Group 3. So having identified a lot of activities that could be done based on our strategic documents, we are able to bring out these 10, and for us, they are they have high priority to us. Number one among them is finalization of the Kadbeam 2024 functionality assessment for Kadbeam. We noticed that since the assessment and the session that we have held about this functionality, we have not seen a finalized document. We want to be able to engage with it.
Okay,
and
but
to know how that
you
is.
sorry.
We have not seen it.
Okay, well, we don't.
So we feel if we see that will inform the adjustments even in the mechanism for us to know what level of actions and steps we be taken. Then the second one is to develop development of identified policies and guidelines for Kadbeam. Yeah, so it's all of activities we listed down here. Are referencing the documents. So the idea is for us to just highlight them here. So there's a strategy these very activities speaking to. So in the strategy, we have some specific policies that we have been able to capture in the strategy. One of them is safeguarding policy and what have you. So the projectors, I think it's correct. Yes. So this one. No, that's what I was. You don't allow them to direct this person to inform. That was the same. You allow them to direct this person to inform. We don't need to. We cannot manage it. Because this is not. That he has it's called he will try to brush you. Okay. So the third one is strengthening the district education committee to improve community-based approach to addressing barriers to education. So we consider this again, they are very high for us. That's why we're taking them and we're coloring them red, because they are fundamental in determining the quality of education that we have in the community. Then we talk about the training of members on report writing and documentation of activities. This will help us. It's under the strategy we're looking at to make sure that the mechanism is functioning optimally. So one of the gaps we found out is that member attend activity display reports, and when next another person wants to go for a similar meeting, does not have the idea of what happened in the previous one. So we want to make it a mandate for everyone that is going for any activity to report and get this document to the secretary, so that you can always fall back to our repository and get this information to update yourself for the next activity you are going to be attending. Then we'll talk about develop a resource mobilization strategy. We know that without resources, again, its chance of performing optimally is very slim. So we notice that it's a gap, and we feel that it should be worked on so that we can deliver on the mandate. We also talk about conducting a workshop on understanding the budget cycle and tracking. It's something we have been doing, but we still see gaps. Again, we have some more new members. It's something that we want everyone to be abreast with, so that if you are called upon or if there's a demand for it, you are always on ground to deliver to expectations. It's a key area for us, and it is highlighted, red, and ticked under high priority activity. Then we talk about we want to do policy audits. We have a lot of policies in Kaduna, and most often than not, we just have them as documents. And we all agree that one of the challenges we have in almost all the sectors, not only education, is that we have policies, but implementation is an issue. So if you have a system that functions around this, to always track and see the performance of policies, where we need to update, where we need to engage, where we need to advocate, like everybody's talking around it with Kadbeam, so we can easily identify that, okay, these policies have moved a little, or they are not even being implemented at all. That will inform the level and the dimension of our engagement in terms of advocacy. So the next one is to conduct a workshop on result-based monitoring and implementation policy dialogue. So we still speak to that. So one angle is to audit it. The second one is to now, put those findings from our audits together to determine how we monitor and how we advocate. Then all of this again, aside for the individual advocacy, we also want to come for a dialogue whereby we have all our partners and all the critical stakeholders in the hall, and we make presentation of our findings from the policy audits and what have you, so that we know how we get commitment and every all hands will be on to challenge the work done. So the next one is to conduct advocacy visits to relevant stakeholders on the education sector and address barriers to education at all levels. Okay, so we prioritize basic education. However, again, we don't want a situation by having done well in the basic education, we are leaving the other level aside. So we want to ensure that at all levels we are doing well. But primarily, we focus on basic education. Then last but not the least is to conduct sensitization and assessment on retention and completion of education to address challenges of out-of-school children and teacher-pupil ratio. So we all know what the situation of out-of-school children is. So we don't only want to do that, we also want to ensure that there's a balance. We have places whereby we have this speaks to the issue of teachers that she was talking about. So this will help us to be able to come up with functioning strategies or better strategies, as the case may be, to determine what we can do with this regard. In the areas whereby there are no enough teachers, we can then begin to put heads together to bring up what we can do to ensure that there's a balance between the number of pupils in the classroom as well as against teachers. So these are the basic, the 10 we identified for the 3. And I can see that it's also agreed with some of the things that 1 and 2 have done. So we find a common ground to harmonize everything and come up with a report. Thank you very much. Have a seat there. No. See that? Okay, don't put your hands in there.
No, not what not matter. So we've seen, I want us to harmonize the 3 groups. Yeah, you see this one is, you've all done well, then we put it this way. But I can see that you just brought out all these are wrong priorities, right? Yeah. So I don't know whether we agree, whether or maybe we just can't through which one do you think is not high priority for us as Kadbeam before we start picking for other groups so that we can just work and just pick that one as one document that we work with. So go up, Senior. So first one, priority, is there high priority for all of you?
Yes.
Good. Second one.
Can the government help them to decide?
Yes, you can suggest. Sorry, let me get this clear. Kadbeam, sorry.
That's why I'm asking.
Kadbeam, government is part of Kadbeam now, it's not co-created.
Your chairman, our chairman is from your.
So I understand. Government is part of Kadbeam, right?
It is.
It's just that, as expected, government should be making more effort to the mechanism. It's not forthcoming. Am I correct? Yeah. You expect government side there's that kind of, collaboration.
Yeah.
To have that. It's not cooperative. Exactly. It's not coming. So part of it as well. So you want to say something that?
It's just a question so that we are going.
No, of course. Now, the second one. Now, so development of identified policy. So I want us to specifically agree because I'm really critical about this one. What policy do you want? We need to be specific here now. Right? To mention, let's say, develop policies on is it operation or whatever, or you decide later. I don't know whether you have time to do that.
We already have policies that were identified.
So that's why I say the documents, if you look at the strategic document,
Yeah.
we have identified some excess, etc. And we have etc there.
Now, instead of going into the document, right?
Yeah.
Because like we want to say, okay, this is what we want to be running with.
Okay.
Instead of going back, we need to flip through.
So, or again, we can create a column to capture the strategies aside the this activity that's decided on. Anyhow, just say what you want to say. Let's see something else.
Okay, what I'm saying is now this document I'm talking about is in the strategic plan, right?
Yeah.
And you said we want to say because we may not have time to go through it and see those documents specifically that were mentioned. That we need to mention.
Sorry, sir, but Alex mentioned it earlier now. So all you have
So,
to do is just call them and just write down.
Simeon, can you Alex just mention it so that you can just in bracket maybe just put the policies and let's add them.
Safeguarding documents. Safeguarding policy. Data policy. Finance policy. Child protection policy. And consent.
Consent policy.
Then
Consent policy or develop consent when we do for assessment.
yeah.
So that's what the policy is.
Then conflict of interest policy. Interests. Procurement policy. Membership recruitment guidelines.
That's all. Okay, let me ask you a question.
What is this?
Now, you have this array of policies. If I said you choose 3 out of this array of policies, which one do you pick first, second, and third?
Data policy.
Data policy 1,
Safeguarding.
2,
Finance.
we have 3.
Yeah,
So data, finance,
Protection.
child protection. Child
We
protection.
have it in the state. Maybe
Okay,
adopt.
now let me come back again. If Kadbeam want to be functional, I want to start working now. What are those things I will do? Out of this policy, among this policy, that I will do to have a place. Let me tell you my mind. Let's just do this one.
Okay.
Now as Kadbeam,
Yes.
we are talking of we want to have access funds, right? Now for me, safeguarding is secondary now. For now.
Yes, finance.
Data policy, is secondary for now. But when we talk of finance,
Yes.
it's primary. When we talk of membership drive,
Yes.
Ghana, it's because without members, you cannot, like I mentioned this morning, you have good resource, human resource in this room. Now, if you want to get more, membership need to like work on that. Then procurement policy, of course. Funders, if a funder want to give you fund, want to say, okay, if I give you fund, want to buy, I say, okay, I'm going to support you to buy a system or whatever. What are your policies you have in hand? Need to like emphasize that. So for me, these are the other ones will come later. If you are stabilized, you can begin to have that.
Okay. Thank you.
Are we okay?
Yes.
So for me, I would have loved for us to take this safeguarding policy, data policy, but finance policy is important. Child protection is even important because you cannot do anything that is contrary to the state policy or state law. Yeah, it's just that you need to like pick some and adapt it to your own system. But you can't go outside that. But for now, that is secondary. So I suggest if now there is anything that's going to be done, you have a financial policy, procurement, so we say operation. How do you run your whatever? Right? How do you run your whatever? Do you need to have something? So these are the crazy. So where's Simeon? He ran away again. Who's going to like step down? Alex, can you come on? So are we agreeing that because we need to clear? Take this one. I'll leave the three: finance, procurement, policy, membership. Let's have that.
Yes.
Right? So if
another important policy you need to put without organizational or operational policy.
Organizational operation. That's all part of operation. So organization.
We have terms of reference.
It's important to separate, policies of the corporate entity from state policies or government policies. So some of them, as he mentioned correctly, like safeguarding, child protection, they can be subsumed under, or you can draw from whatever the state has. You are not expected to operate on outside what the state has. So, but for an entity that wants to access grants, the organizational policies, you can limit them to the core ones, which include the finance, the procurement, and maybe if you have operations. That will give the donor, the potential donor, confidence that you have a working system.
Data policy too can still stand because we work with a lot of data because of the assessment that we do. So it's not the data policy for the state, but for Kadbeam itself.
Fine, we are not saying, fine, you can add data policy. What I'm saying, we are not saying it's so important. All those you mentioned are important. But it's like now, if someone says, okay, Kadbeam, I want to support you today. Give me one policy that I want to implement, that I want me to support you with. Which one do you run with?
Is in line.
I
believe all of us have organizations, and if you have accessed grants or anything, then you should understand the policies that are required. So if I even in my group we had that integration because I actually told them that some of these policies are quite, of no priority to us, but these ones that I mentioned.
Okay, data, include data too, data policy. That's fine.
But he said something about
Operational policy.
Operational
Operational policy. Add the operational policy.
Very important.
Yeah, operational policy.